Welcome back to another episode of the Snow Farms Underground Podcast. I'm your host, Russell Snow. Today is 27th of September, 2022. I believe this is episode 11. So we're making progress. Every day when I sit down, I love doing the podcast. You could accuse me of loving to hear myself talk. But I've been in this space for 13 years now, really actively since the 2008 housing crash. And 2009, I really started to work on preparedness. And I was talking with a guy from work today. I mean, I started out as a full-blown survivalist, right? Because as a dude, especially a dude that has seen a little bit of war, man, it's all about guns, and gear, and all that stuff, right? But as you mature, and as you get older, married, all these different things. And for me, I am not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm definitely not the same person I was 10. I look back to the young man I was in my early 30s, and it's just cringe, right? But I've always been striving for knowledge and information. So today I'm going to talk about a sense of urgency, because this has been on my mind with everything that's going on in the world today. The war going on in Ukraine, the tensions over China and Taiwan. So that sense of urgency, I still remember waking up and finding out Trump had been elected, which I didn't think was going to happen. I had a buddy call me, and he couldn't believe it that Trump had won. He was excited, and I just remember thinking, I've got 4 years to get my stuff together. And I really started hitting it hard, because we were way down the road. That was 2016. We were way down the road. We had a homestead. We were growing a lot of our own food. I think 2017 was the year when we became protein independent. And then 2020, we were veg independent during the pandemic because of the greenhouse. So, but now that sense of urgency is just grown so much stronger. And so we're going to talk about that today. If you're here, if you found this, odds are you're a young man. You're from somewhere in your late 20s to your late 30s, and you've realized that the world that you've been sold is not the world you live in, and you have a family, or you want to start a family, and you don't know where to start, and you're overwhelmed. Because there are all these things that once you start to wake up and you realize how fragile so many things are, and human beings, we've been fragile for the existence of our species, and we've done a great job of solving those problems, but from where I'm sitting, it just feels like we're on the precipice of real hunger issues, and not just outside the United States, but just with the cost of food. I saw a thing today somewhere about in the 50s, the average meal size was less than half of what it is now at a fast food restaurant. And I think about having enough calories, because right now you want to be full when you get done versus, well, that's enough food. And they're two completely different things. So the first thing about the sense of urgency is getting out of debt. So we've already had an episode about that. Snowball, get rid of the debt, get that under control. And then the next thing is have that 3 months of money set aside to cover your bills. That's mortgage, all your utilities, everything. And then start to build that investment, start to build some cash on the side. So the fun thing as a dude is to talk about guns, self-protection, all the tactical stuff, the gear, right? And I'm here to tell you, I haven't been shot at in a really, really long time, but I've had to eat 3 meals a day, 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day, but I've eaten every single day, more or less, for my entire adult life. So we're going to talk just briefly about guns. My advice to everybody when they talk about what pistol should I buy, what rifle should I buy, shotgun, all these things, go to a range, go to a buddy's place, shoot a bunch of different things, figure out what shoots well for you. Your body, my body are different. Our point of aim, how our eyes work, how our bodies work, grip, all those things are different. Go find a gun that shoots well for you. And most of your modern guns, Glock, SIG, HK, H&K, you name it, Springfield, they're going to be reliable guns. So go find something, and again, not to get into the flame wars, but 9mm, just because it's the NATO standard. It's everywhere in the United States you can walk in and find 9mm. 2, it's a 5.56. Go get you an AR. With looking at the ATF, and they're talking about reclassifying a pistol and pistol stocks and braces, I wouldn't recommend that for a first-time rifle purchase. Go to Palmetto State. Go get one of their blims, which a blemished gun. They're still under $500 for an AR delivered to your FFL of choice. You have to go fill out some paperwork, pick the gun up. That's usually anywhere from $15 in the low end to $50 in the high end. Who cares? So on top of that rifle, bang for your buck, around 100, depends on what sale you catch. Primary Arms, anywhere from $140 to $180 with the riser, because you want to have co-witness sights. Get a red dot from Primary Arms. They have night vision compatible at that price point, 50,000 hours of battery life. They're shake on. When they sit for long enough, motionless, they turn off automatically. It's a no-brainer. Under $200, out the door. And I remember when red dots first started to come online. I bought my first EOTech in 2011. And there were so many folks, guys, it was dudes, in the preparedness, survivalist, prepper space. It wasn't really a homesteading space at that point that I knew of. But just talked about, you got to use iron sights. Batteries ain't going to be around forever, blah, 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 break, blah, 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 right? I have beat that EOTech just to death. And that thing looks the exact same as the day I bought it. I change the battery every year and go about my life. So now that EOTech at 2011 was $500. I think they're still in that range. There's good and bad about that. It doesn't matter. Buy what you can afford. Buy what works for you. 10 mags. Right now, you can still find them for $12 a piece. There's $120 for AR mags for 10 of those. It's a consumable. You're going to break some. Some are going to wear out. Some may not feed well. 6 is the least I would recommend you having, but 10 on the outside. 3 mags for the pistol. On the pistol side, the other thing to look at is Palmetto State makes a dagger. Somehow Glock let their Gen 3 patents expire, and Palmetto State's making them. I didn't think much of it. I wouldn't have tried it, but I had a buddy who I really, really respect who is a shooter, and he just raved about his. So I took a chance. It's a $300 pistol. I threw in a little Vortex RMR. Everything's milled. I just had to tighten the screws that came with it down. That thing is a beast. It's basically a Glock 19 clone. Everything's interchangeable with Glock parts, Glock mags, and for the price, you just can't beat it. For $500, have a red dot on your pistol to run. And I'm of two minds on the pistol. I have one Glock set up with a light underneath it and another without. The extra weight, there's a downside to that light. The extra weight of it. And then it's the Kydex holsters, it's really hard to get one that's secure in a Kydex holster. That's just tension secure because how that light affects everything. Pluses and minuses to both. Walter Block, there are no solutions in life, only trade-offs. So, 1,000 rounds of AR ammo. Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X ammo to go. Lucky Gunner, there's a bunch of different folks that will take care of your prices, have come way back down. If you're not stockpiling ammo right now, man, 1,000 rounds, you're looking at $400 delivered to your house under that. And then on the 9mm, 400 rounds of full metal jacket, 100 rounds of hollow point. You need to know how your hollow point shoots, and that feeds in your pistol reliably. Beyond that, you can target practice with the jacket of hollow points and carry the hollow point. I'm sorry, the full metal jackets and carry the hollow points. So that's all I have to say on the guns. 90 days of food. So everyone talks about that, 3 months, year, whatever. The other thing folks don't talk about, though, is 90 days of household necessities. So the whole point of having 90 days of food, and Spirico talks about this all the time, is number one disaster you're going to see in your life is a job loss. Number two is probably getting sick or injured where you can't work. But, COVID, I'm 47. That is the one time in my life I've seen a pandemic. And it wasn't really that bad. And there were shortages. So when I say household necessities, toilet paper, paper towels, cold medicine, soap, cleaning supplies, laundry detergent. Think about the consumables you use on a day-to-day basis. If you were locked in your house for 90 days, do you have 90 days worth of those things? You're always going to be rotating through. It's no different than if you're in a store. Just put the new stuff at the back, old stuff's up front, use the old stuff first. But don't just get stuck on 90 days of beans and rice, 90 days of how do I get those pots and pans clean after I eat the beans and rice. Next thing, strengthen your relationships. Men, this is something you don't want to hear, right? It's hard. We don't like it. We don't like to talk about these things. But your spouse should be the centerpiece after God in your life. That is the person that you should be kindest to, that work hardest to please that person. The more selfless you are, if you have a good spouse, if you chose well, the better they're going to treat you. This reciprocity of treating each other well, man, does it make your life awesome. Next, your children. Indoctrinate your children in what you believe, or someone else is going to indoctrinate them in what they believe. Those are your two options. Family. The folks that you can, the folks that are like-minded, the folks you get along with in your family, work really, really hard to strengthen those ties. And finally, well, not finally, you have friends. So the friends in your life. Be a great friend. Be willing to help. Be selfless. Offer good advice. Be honest with them. Be trustworthy. Always, the cowboy code. Ride for the brand. All those things with your friends. Be a great friend, and you will be amazed that you always find great friends for yourself. And then your community. Anything outside of, again, that 5 to 10 mile circle I like to talk about, I have no control. And it's really hard to have actionable impact outside of that area of your life. But inside that area, you're going to hear me say this 1,000 times if I have 1,000 podcasts, I'm going to pour out the rest of my life, my life force into my family, my spouse, and my community. Those are where my focus is going to be. Next thing, start growing your own food. It doesn't have to be a lot. And understand the caloric differences between things you like. Salad is a great example. Plate full of salad, greens, carrot strips, onions, name your vegetables here. Just vegetables themselves, my goodness, you might in a big plate of salad get to 200 calories, maybe. It always blows my mind how few calories are in greens. Now, minerals, vitamins, all that stuff, awesome. But fruit, just because you have a ton of calories, and then when you combine that with sugar as a calorie, because that's all in raising bees when you give them sugar water. It's basically the same as putting jam on a piece of bread. You're just giving yourself some easily available calories. But protein, and whether that's chickens, rabbits, ducks, geese, turkeys, pigs, cattle, goats, doesn't matter. Protein. So chickens, dual purpose, eggs, ducks, eggs, geese, not that many eggs, but you get some. So look at that. And then with goats and cattle, you get the secondary product of not just meat, but milk. And then you get cheese, sour cream, butter, all these other things that are just wonderful and lovely. So the more of your own food that you can grow, the richer you are. And the big thing too, if you're nervous about the economy and everything that's going on, and there's so many things, and I'll try really hard never to be a fear-porn guy, but the thing I always think about, in my lifetime, we have watched a superpower disintegrate in real time. And the difference between the Soviet Union and the United States is the Soviets, everyone was on welfare. You had basically a ration card. And if the store had that stuff in stock and you were willing to stand in line, and someone who was higher ranking in the party didn't cut in front of you in line, you might get some of the food that was allotted for you by the government. But at the fall of the Soviet Union, the average Russian was growing 50% of their food. And it was all black market, but officials were looking the other way. And that, again, what I just talked about, protein, turnips, potatoes. Potatoes are a great food, tons of calories there, much more calorically dense than greens. But those are the things to be thinking about. In the United States, if we have a currency collapse or the economy turns, and your food stamps, for the folks who are on food stamps, if they don't make it through the month, if they don't help, if I want to start riots, Matt Bracken had an article about this years ago, a decade, maybe more, about if a foreign actor really wanted to cause chaos in the United States. And this is why I don't think there's been real mass interference by the Chinese, the Russians. If you wanted to watch this country burn in a 3-week period, on the 30th of the month, disable the food stamps. So there'd be no food stamps available to be used on the 1st or the 15th. By the 20th of that month, most of your major cities would be on fire. So just something to think about there. So if you're growing your own food, that's great to have some food set aside, right? But as soon as you break into that, if you're not actively growing and going to be able to replace that, if you're in an emergency situation, you're on the same countdown to starvation that everyone else is, right? So start growing that. Start with what you have, where you're at. And we'll have tons of episodes about what we've done, what works, what doesn't. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is the sense of urgency. Start being a problem solver. Start looking at things. YouTube is the world's greatest university. Harvard, Oxford, nothing on YouTube as far as actionable skills that you can learn in anywhere from minutes to a couple hours. And there is somebody who is teaching to how you best learn. And that's the thing you have to learn is some people want to walk through step by step. Some people want no instruction. They just want to see how it's done. It's there for you. So find somebody on YouTube that's doing things that you like, that teaches the right way, and start solving all the problems that you can for yourself. Whether that's fixing things in your car, fixing things in your home, fixing things in your relationship. How do you talk to your wife? There are all kinds of, how do you get married? How do you find love if you're a Zoomer and you want to settle down a homestead? There is great advice out there for you specific to this. So those are the things, because we've had my entire life. My first conscious memories of the Reagan-Carter election. From that point on, we've had nothing but progress. Things have gotten cheaper, better. Wages have been stagnant, but food, all these things. Life is so much better now than it was in 1979. So these are things that I really, really encourage you to understand may not always improve. Technology may not always get faster. At some point, we're going to come to where Moore's law stops making sense. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad. How you react to that is going to determine everything about you. It's going to be how you react at work, in your relationship. You can either put your head down, work through it, laugh, make the best of it, or you can lay down and die. Those are always your two options. So I encourage you, just keep working. Just keep getting up, answering that bell, trying to make yourself better, make your family better, be a better husband, wife, be a better father, mother, friend, all those things. But just keep answering that bell. Hope this helps you. As always, if you have any comments, leave those down below. And we'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back Sunday, hopefully next week, with lots more content.